Well, welcome to the Christy Jones Show, where it's all about living your life to the fullest. I'm a life coach, speaker, and business owner in multifamily real estate, and I've had wild success in multifamily housing for over 25 years now. I am so passionate about helping others merge their success and lead a fulfilling life, and I bring it all together right here on this podcast. So join me and let's get started to live your life to the fullest. Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am going to dive into one of the most crucial skills that you can have. I'm going to talk about adaptability. And whether it is in your business, whether it is in life, whether it is in everything and all the things, being flexible, being open to change, being adaptable is a complete total game changer. So today I'm going to unpack why adaptability is kind of your secret weapon for success and fulfillment, and really how you can just build so much more resilience within yourself and enjoy your life. All right, so let's jump right into it. So this is kind of like a shorty episode, and this is off the cuff, got a couple notes, but really just wanting to kind of dish it out here with you on the podcast and talk about adaptability in the way, like if we're sitting down to have coffee or over lunch or something, and you're asking me, hey, I really don't like change. I freak out about change in my life. I would just like sit down and have this little conversation with you about adaptability. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to move a little bit all over the place, but trust me, by the end of this episode, you're going to have a fresh outlook on what being adaptable means and why you want to become a more adaptable personality. Weave that into your skill set. So adaptability really is it's honestly a way to make yourself so resilient to life. It really is. And it's a skill set that you need to become really good at so that you feel good in how you move through your life. Meaning, when I say feel good, it's almost like you might use the word happiness, you might use the word contentment, just that feel good factor, that we want. Not that every day feels freaking amazing, because that's not reality. But overall, the overall kind of current that you feel in your life, we strive for that. We want to feel inspired. We want to feel good. We want to feel positive. We want like life to have this really energized feeling about it. And when you are a much more adaptable person, you are going to feel that way more often, because you're going to understand that change isn't going to cause so much disruption and unrest for you. So adaptability, let's talk about a couple different things. I'm going to talk about adapting in business first and in your career. And I mean, this is no newsflash for you, but things move fast. Things change a lot. In your work, in your business, there's always new concepts, there's new programs, there's new ways of doing things. There's constant change, right? And that's part of life in general, but it's definitely part of business. And to stay relevant, to stay in the game, to, have the wins on a consistent basis, you have to learn to become adaptable. You have to adapt to changing markets, to changing technologies, and they evolve rapidly at this time in our life. So you have to commit to yourself that I am going to learn how to become a very adaptable person and not so fixed and rigid. The things that, again, I'm talking about business specifically right now. The things that worked 10 years ago aren't necessarily the things that work today. And you know that whatever industry you're in, you totally get that. And so if we're too tied to the things that worked 10 years ago, heck, even 5 years ago, and we're like still trying to force feed that into our system, I mean, it's either maybe it's not working as well, it's causing a lot of resistance, it's just like bottlenecking. So that possibly could be because you're not wanting to adapt to what is evolving in your industry. So being adaptable keeps you really open to what is next, to what might be new, to what might work now that didn't work then, or maybe what kind of you already tried before and it didn't work then, but maybe you need to try it now. Or maybe you're trying to still do things in a way that worked in the past, but is not applicable now. So being adaptable is really going to make your how you feel in how you're moving through your business and your career. It's going to make it feel so much different. Companies, professionals that pivot and adapt more easily, they thrive. And for those that don't, unfortunately, I mean, it just kind of washes out. It just kind of takes care of itself. So if you want to be in that forward movement, whatever that looks like for you, you need to understand that your ability to adapt to changing environments, to changing markets, to changing practices is really, really, really key. So really tap into that. Now let's go over and talk about our personal lives and, adaptability there. Being adaptable in our daily life is just as important, whether that's you adjusting your routine for the day, for the week, if you're trying to force yourself to do habits that worked for you 10 years ago, and you're trying to force those into working today, and it's just either you're not getting the same results, it doesn't give you that same feeling, that feel good, like it's just so much friction, or you're exhausted because you're trying to do the things in a way that you went about it 10 years ago, but your life is different. Your circumstances are different. Everything's different 10 years later, but you're still trying to like hold on to something that worked then. Well, my friend, that's why I'm saying be in that, think of like, oh, maybe I need to work on my adaptability and figure out what works now. What are the habits? What is the routines, the daily routines, the weekly routines that work for me now, for where I'm at now, not then. And so whether it's adjusting a routine, whether maybe it's handling unexpected challenges that you didn't really think were going to come your way right now, or maybe it's an evolving relationship. Maybe it's that. But a relationship was in a certain place, maybe 5, 10 years ago, and it's evolving into something else, but your inability to adapt to where the relationship is growing into, maybe if you're still so rigid and stuck to how things were, you're not open to adapting to and evolving into where that relationship is now, that friendship, whatever kind of relationship. This can apply to literally anything. So when we have the ability to be more adaptable, it enhances our resilience. It really improves the only way I know how to kind of package this up is it really improves your overall happiness level. And I have talked about this in another episode, but happiness is like a you job. It's not a they job. You are in charge of how you feel, and your level of, happiness is kind of a very like it's kind of like an all-encompassing word. So when I say that, it's not like, oh, we got to walk around happy all the time. I've gone into that deeper in another episode. So if you have followed me a while, you know what I mean when I say that. Not everything is just like cupcakes, sprinkles, and rainbows. But when when you're more open and flexible and adaptable, then you are definitely going to feel better as you move and evolve through your life. You're not so fixated on what was that you can't adapt into what is. That is really key. A lot of our suffering is self-imposed. So when I say suffering, meaning if you have disrest or a discomfort with something, you're wrestling with something in your mind, and it's causing you to, be low mood, to be frustrated, to be in a bad mood, to whatever. 9 times out of 10, we're causing our own suffering in life. And it is our perspective, which I talked about last week. Our perspective is everything. We're in charge of our own happiness. We cannot look to other people. We can't look to events. You can't look at outward things, places, people to make you happy. It's not someone else's job to make you happy. And it's not your job to make other people happy. It is truly like that's a one person deal. You are in charge of your wholeness, your completeness, your joy level, happiness level, whatever word or label you want to put on it. But it comes back to you. And you can't put that pressure on someone else to bring that to you. And also, that's why I say it's also not your job to like, you can't make someone else happy. You just can't. One of the thoughts, this is kind of going off on a tangent right now, but one of the thought processes that I hold is that, and it's definitely not popular with all people. And I've definitely gotten pushback from, people in my own life, in my own personal circle when it comes to my thought process on this. But I am very firm in the position of that I am only in charge of my thoughts, feelings, and actions, and that I don't control others the way they think or feel, that they're entitled to those. And they're allowed to feel how they want to feel. They're allowed to act the way they want to act. They're allowed to do those things. And it is not my place to make sure somebody is happy. If you have someone, let's say, just look at the people that you deal with on the most regular basis in your family friend group, okay? And there might be a person within that family friend group that is you just kind of feel they're like always they're kind of, always like this, up and down, high and low, got a problem, everything's disruptive to them. And they're what I call very dysregulated with their emotional process. And that is not your job and it's not your responsibility to make sure that they're happy. I mean, we can offer support and we listen and we are an open ear, but at the end of the day, how they decide to feel is how they decide to feel. And that's not anyone else's job other than that individual. I know when some of you hear that, you're like, oh, thank God somebody finally said that because I feel so responsible. Like I'm trying to help, this friend and I'm trying to get them out of the trenches so they see things in a different way. And I hate that they're so frustrated and miserable right now. And you have to learn to be okay that just might be where they're at right now. And they've got to work through that on their own timetable, in their own way. And that it's clearly not your job to dish out and make sure that everyone's eating from the plate of, of wanting, maybe they just maybe don't want to feel good right now. Like if they're decided that they're going to be on the misery train and the pissed off train or whatever train they're on, they're going to be on that train until they decide not to be. And so I say that because I know there's people hearing this right now that struggle with that want so much to help that person that they love, that friend they love, that family member that they love. but you have to allow them to work through that in the way they have to work through that. And that is not your responsibility to make sure that everybody feels good, that everybody is happy. You need to really make sure that you're turning and handling that business like in your own house for yourself. When I say in your own house, meaning in your own body, in your own mind. Completely got off the subject a little bit there on adaptability, but I do think that that's really important because that might be an area that you need to become a little more adaptable in because you're so fixated on making sure that everyone is good and happy and, you know, in the people pleasing thing. So maybe you need to become a little more flexible and letting people not feel good and work through their things and still be supportive and listen and love them, but it's not your job to fix the way that they feel or think. So, whatever train they're on, I always say we have to allow them to be on that train because people will ride a train until, and this is just like a little analogy I have, they will ride a train until they're ready to get off the train. And another way to say that is people only change most times. People only change when what they're doing is so painful that they're just they're just exhausted and they're ready. They're ready to change. They're willing. They're willing to do something a different way. They're willing to set something down. They're willing to let go of the problem. So let them ride that train until they decide to get off and take another train. So, anyways, but adaptability is really it applies to business, it applies to our personal life, and the more adaptable you can be, bottom line, the more adaptable you can be, the better you're going to feel, the more happiness you're going to have, and the more resilience you're going to have within yourself. You know, I talked a lot about perspective last week and mindset and shifting mindsets. And, you know, when we cultivate a mindset that welcomes change instead of resists change, we can reduce the stress in our life so much. We can be more innovative and more creative when it comes to solving problems. We can be more proactive instead of reactive. You know, a lot of times and when I say proactive, meaning you see something in advance and there's steps that you can do to get the results that you're trying to get by being more proactive versus have the issue happen, the problem. Let's say it's something at work. Like you kind of see it coming, but instead of being proactive, you wait for it to happen and then you react. So then you go into action. So if you can, you know, shift your mindset on this, you can reduce stress, you become more proactive, more creative, and more innovative when it comes to taking care of things. A couple ways, I hope that adaptability has, I hope that that word, like you listening to this, that you're going to leave this episode and go, huh, adaptability. That's something that I need to lean into a little more. And I mean, you know, let's face it, we're creatures of habit. Um, we like familiar things, familiar places, familiar faces, which is why I always am encouraging my community to welcome change. Welcome change. We talk about, you know, you've heard this a million times over, getting out of your comfort zone. That is where the good stuff takes place, my friend. It's also something, oh, I don't have confidence to, I've heard this before. This thought just came to mind from a former client where I don't have the confidence to do something out of my comfort zone. And my response is many of us don't have the confidence to do something out of our comfort zone. Everybody's been there one time or another. And the confidence comes from action. The confidence comes from actually trying and doing. It comes from the action part. Like you don't wait to feel confident enough to do something. You do something and that then you step into like it just creates the confidence. It's like this whole vacuum, like imagine this like this bubble, and it doesn't have confidence in the bubble. But as soon as you break the barrier of the bubble and you step into the bubble then is filled with confidence. It's the action of doing the thing that you're scared freaking death to do that is going to build your confidence. And I know that seems like ass backwards to our logical brain, but if you haven't tried that, you need to try that and trust me on that. I mean, this is so true. So you've got to take the action. You got to do the thing, and the confidence is it comes within the action part. You don't practice confidence. You don't just keep practicing. You do. You do the reps. You keep going. You keep going at whatever it is that you're wanting that's like making you feel uncomfortable. That you're like, oh my God, that's totally out of my comfort zone. That's even more reason why you need to do it. That's even more reason why you need to do it. I constantly look for things that make me uncomfortable because when I start getting nervous is when I feel really comfortable. And I'm like, ooh, uh, I don't want to fall into the comfort. Like it's almost like the mediocre level. When something becomes very just too comfortable, I'm like, okay, I need to look. I'm not challenging myself. Why? I mean, I need to that, but that's something that I look for that in my work. I look for that in my personal life, my just in general. I like to weave in and put myself in situations that are on that edge of comfort and discomfort. And then I mean, when you do that, the more you do that, then you don't get like as anxious or worked up about it. It just becomes normal. It's like my brain just knows, okay, well, okay, now you need to do this because it's definitely something that it's like out of that quote comfort zone. You need to do that. You need to go in that direction. You need to explore that. You need to lean into that. So adaptability is something that builds, I believe, from when you put yourself into more of those situations. I just have, when I talk about confidence, I've stepped into things where I am not confident, like, I'm like, ooh, that's a new thing. If it's something new, it's normal to be like, that's new to me. I haven't done that. I haven't done this exact thing. Okay. The confidence is I have a lot of self-assurance. I am confident that I can show up to the new thing and do the new thing, to put the effort into the new thing, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, obviously. Nobody can guarantee that. But I'm not attaching so much to the outcome. I'm not attaching so much to the outcome. I'm going to talk about this because I'm working on something on the side that has to do with marketing and sales and really speaks to those individuals that's a part of their work, which, hello, every business, I mean, marketing and sales is a part of it. But when it comes to um, in sales, and if that's a part of any part of what you do in any level, right? Whether you do it every day, you do it, that's just like full time what you do, or like one day a week, you're focused on that. Your ability to adapt is absolutely a game changer. And you're constantly putting yourselves in uncomfortable situations. And when I talk about detaching from the outcome, this is why this is one of the things is that you're going to try things, sales, marketing, really any aspect of business, and you're not always going to get the outcome that you want. And if you are so tied to and fixated on a specific outcome and most importantly, what that outcome, your brain, you're telling yourself what that outcome is going to mean. Meaning, like, let's say you're trying to land a new client and you don't get that deal done and they say no. And you have put your best foot forward. You thought you covered everything. You thought that you handled the objections. You thought you knew all the ins and outs, and it didn't happen. Some people will stop there because they're so attached to that outcome of what that of they'll label it as a failure or what have you, instead of not losing any momentum at all and adapting, figuring out what you can learn from that, and knowing that, and just having the confidence knowing that the next opportunity is just the one more phone call, one more appointment away. That's, I mean, literally. And so if you're so attached to the outcome, you just have to look at it as data. You can't like start internalizing this and, oh my God, what does this mean? And I'm a failure and I'm not good at this. You got to stop that spin cycle because that's just not true. So adaptability in how you view things when you are in business and you're in a business where you're going to hear a lot of freaking no's, which I did. I was in the apartment business and I even sold copiers at one point in time, which is a brutal industry. And I got told no. I was in high rises up and down all day long in downtown. And I can tell you how, I don't even know how many times I couldn't even, no, no, they won't see you. No, they won't talk to you. No, no, no. And then you finally get an appointment. And then you get a yes. And then you get 20 no's. And then you get a couple more yeses. I mean, you kind of get it's to me, I think that business was so great for adaptability for myself because one, I adapted, I figured like to the environment of figuring out what worked, what clients wanted, what they wanted to hear, what they wanted to like hear, as in what is it that they're wanting to know? What is the problem that they're wanting me to solve with what it is I'm offering? And I had to really, I didn't understand that very well in the beginning. And that was bad. I had to learn that. I had to learn that. And I was probably 21, 22, something like that. So I had to learn that. And man, I learned so much and in that business. And pretty soon I was so adaptable, like you could tell me no, you could tell me like the sky is green, and I'd be like, okay. I mean, I was just like, go, 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 go. I also had to learn how to manage my stress really well in that season, which I did not do well at all at that age in managing the pressure and the stress that came, excuse me, with that line of work. So I was not good at adaptability, meaning I just did not handle the pressure and the quotas and all of that. Like it wreaked havoc on my being. And excuse me, but I did learn how to become better at that. But that really taught me a lot. Really, it taught me a lot, and it was very. I would say it definitely taught me a lot in the early kind of foundation of being adaptable and being flexible, and how if you don't adapt and you don't like go with what is working in today's climate, I mean, somebody else is going to adapt and they're going to be able to provide to your customer what it is that solves their problem. So, and also in the apartment business, if you're leasing apartments, that's a sales job and that you see a lot of people throughout the week and you're going to get told no, you're going to hear the no's. You have to be adaptable because when you're adaptable, you're building resilience. And it's helping you figure out how you can better serve your customer. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. Your customer, your client. All right, so let me wrap this up on adaptability. Let me give you some practical tips on how you can start becoming more adaptable. If you're like, I'm so rigid, I'm doing things in my personal life, I'm still, like I'm 54. The things that I did at 44 don't really apply to my life right now. So the routines, the habits, like I've changed all of it. All of it. And but I what worked, what I did then worked then. But now I've just changed it up. Why? Because all new circumstances. You have to be adaptable. Adaptable in my friendships. I have a lot of friendships that look so different now than it did, 10 years ago. I just picked 10 because it's an easy number. You can pick five, you can pick two. It doesn't matter. But the point is that your ability to be adaptable really affects the quality of your life. All right, so okay, Christy, I need like just a couple practical tips how I can become more adaptable. I got him right here. Here we go. You need to try new things. I know. Boom. Mind blowing, right? You need to try new things. You need to decide today in the next 48 hour, what is something that you can do that's brand spanking new that you've not done before. This doesn't have to be something huge like I've got to go take a trip and climb a mountain and jump out of a plane, or I'm not talking that. Start, we don't have to, that's the thing. People always go like when they're like, "Oh, I can't do those type of things right now." Nobody said you had to do something like, that you read about in the books, okay? Pick something like that's like that you can actually do. A lot of times when they pick things like that, it's just to procrastinate because they know they can't do it right now. So they're going to pick something that's like far off that maybe I'll do in 6 months. No. What we're going to do right now is I want you to try something new that you can do within 48 hours. Do that. Practice flexibility. Second thing is practice flexibility in your routine. Are you so stuck, like, let's say, in the way you drive to go to work, the way you drive, the direction you drive when you go to the gym? Are you so like, a lot of us are just on autopilot on that, right? This is the way I go. Maybe there's only one way. I don't know. But a lot of times there's like a couple ways you can get there, okay? Go take the other route and notice that your sensory system is just, it's more on high alert because it's your hearing, your vision, all of it is picking up different things because you've gone a different way. So flexibility in your routine could be something as simple as that. Flexibility in your routine could be, instead of doing something that you normally do in the morning, change it up and maybe do it in the evening. Are you like so stuck in your way that you just can't be flexible in any of your routines? If someone calls, here's a great one. If someone calls and invites you to go do something, and let's say they invite you to go, let's say there's like one of your friends is has their business and they're involved in like some event and they're going to be promoting their business and you want to go and support your friend. So you tell your other friend, "Hey, let's go together. It's really cool. It's outdoors. We're going to go." Maybe there's some other cool things going on there and you stop by and see your friend, support him or her. And someone asks you to do that, but then you're like, "Oh, wait, but that's the time that I usually, whatever it is, right? Whether it's, maybe you have a book club, maybe, which that would not be the case for me. Um, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's, when you're scheduled to record a podcast like me right now. Maybe whatever that is. Can you be adaptable and say yes and break up your routine a little bit? So you have to maybe move some things around. So try little things like that. And here's the last tip I want to give you when it comes to being adaptable is be open to feedback. Your adaptability is really tied to your ability to receive feedback and not freak the flip out. Okay. I know some people that can receive feedback and it's very neutral. Like, I know when I receive feedback, of course, I'm a lot of years into life, so probably easier for me to say that, but I can receive feedback and then I can decide, analyze it, think about it, decide what parts of it I find helpful and what parts of it I'm going to just leave at the door. And that's a really like good way to receive feedback. I don't get really worked up, even if the feedback is like super critical or super comes in a different kind of tone. I mean, that's on their end. I mean, I observe. I say things to myself like, that's so interesting that they're saying it like that. That's interesting. I just look at it like, huh, that's interesting. Because it's really telling me more about the person that's delivering the message. And that's what I'm like find interesting. And I try to, just observe. And then again, open to feedback. So being open to feedback and then like someone giving you feedback and you're just like, wham, you come back with, well, what about this and what about that? And that's not true. Like take a breath, like just be open to feedback. Like feedback is just feedback, okay? And it only means whatever you decide it's going to mean. And if you take that viewpoint, and you can borrow that if you'd like, if that resonates with you, package that up and use it for yourself. But whenever you look at feedback like that, it becomes less personalized, and you can figure out of that feedback what was useful, what you might want to, take in and consider, and what there might be parts of that feedback that are like absolutely trash to you, and you can just literally like leave that at the door like a bag of trash. That's all. I mean, it's really simple. So your ability to be open to feedback, that's just the main point. That if you are open to feedback, that does help you become a much more adaptable person. So that is it, my friends. That is it. We are going to move forward, really considering how adaptable are we? How adaptable am I in my work and my business? How adaptable am I in my life? And I can tell you right now, let me close with this, that one thing that is always going to be true is that change is constant in life. And that either excites you or that scares the hell out of you. And it really just depends on what side of the coin you're on. For me, change, that excites me. What scares me is to think that something would be the same forever. That gives me like, starts making me sweat a little bit. It is encouraging to me when I know that change is a constant in life. And so there's not a right or wrong on that, but when I say that, you're probably falling on one side of the coin or the other, like as a reaction inside. But I will tell you that change is constant in life, that nothing stays the same forever. And so if we can lean into this process of becoming more adaptable, it's going to make the changes throughout your life be like less friction, less sandpaper. You're going to just, that term going with the flow. You're going to be more adaptable. You're going to be able to look at things in a different way. You're going to see it through a different vantage point. So my hope is that you do something in the next 48 hours, that tip number one of doing something that kind of gets you out of your comfort level. Do something new. Try something new. Big or small, does not matter. And you'll know what that is. You just need to do this for you. So when you do that, you're going to feel a change. The more often you do that, you start flexing that adaptability muscle. It's just like working out, okay? It's no different. Consistency is everything. All right, my friends, that's a wrap for this week. We are going to focus on adaptability because when we're going to flourish in our life, adaptability is absolutely key. All right, I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. You know I love you. I want to hear your feedback. Social, drop me a DM, drop me an email, drop the team an email. Oh, and don't forget in the show notes, still you can grab the flourishing summer strategy that is still available. I would really just encourage you to get your hands on that, implement that for yourself, because that way you don't wake up in September and you're just like, what the heck? I didn't, all I did was work myself to the bone. Now I'm exhausted. I want you to have both success and fulfillment. And in that worksheet and in that free download, I'm going to give you the roadmap of how you can accomplish that over these next 3 months. All right, I will see you guys next week. Take care and let's keep flourishing. I want to thank you for tuning in today to the podcast, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and all the info that's been shared today. And I hope you've come away with a few ideas on how to make the most out of it for your life. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family. And also make sure you subscribe to the podcast and tap that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would leave a podcast review. So until next time, my friend, keep flourishing and thriving and live your life to the